All right, two very important events have transpired in my life since being confined to isolation. 1, I have learned that it is in fact possible to accidentally become nocturnal. 2, in my chaotic desires to pretend that I am being productive, I rewatched the 2001 cinematic masterpiece, Shrek. However, in my 2 a.m. rhetorical analysis and fit of absolute and utter ogre adoration chaos, I noticed that this movie throws around the word love a lot. Well, 2 cups of coffee and a second read-through of this book later, Shrek is actually a fantastic lens into understanding what philosophers since before Socrates have been trying to understand.
What is love?
Okay, first let's debunk some of this love nonsense using this book, Love. A very short introduction was written by Ronald de Sousa, and this guy, well, he went to Oxford, so he must know something. Literally, the first thing that he says about love is there really is no such thing as a happy ending, since we all either die alone or get a happily ever after type ending in marriage, which is still an ending and is therefore death. Clearly not really an optimist, but let's hear what he has to say. Sousa starts to break down this whole love thing by asking all these questions about it. What can we love? How subjective is love? How does it feel? And the ones that gain the most traction, where you as the reader start to actually feel like you're getting somewhere instead of being stuck in the dark spiraling dungeon of philosophers' questions that feel like a tennis match between love and existentialism, are why do we love, and by extension, do we love for reasons? By this point in his discourse, we have established that love, unlike desire, which is motivated by reward, or craving, which has a clear satisfaction benchmark, can't really be clear-cut by motivation parameters. This is called an altruist dilemma. If each member of the happy couple only wants to fulfill each other's will, then there's nothing for either of them to actually do in the relationship. So, you have to love for some reason, and this is where the conversation of Shrek becomes really, really interesting, because why on earth would a human fall in love with an ogre, or an ogre fall in love with a human before he, knew that she was actually an ogre? But wait, can we actually talk about how lucky that is? Shrek genuinely had no idea that his true love was even his species, and I'd say that really worked out for him. Sousa breaks this question, why do we love, into the point of view of some lovey-dovey circumstance, but let's apply it to Shrek. From Shrek's point of view, he might love Fiona because he takes pleasure in calling her to mind. Her soft hair, her sassy personality, all of these snapshots of reasons to love her. But wait, if soft hair or witty personality are reasons to love, why doesn't Shrek love Donkey? I mean, look at him. He's a huge example of those qualities. And from Fiona's point of view, if you asked her, why would you like to be loved? She's far more likely to say, for who I am. I mean, especially considering the circumstances, than to name specific qualities about herself. We can't call just the texture of her hair or, any physical property an appropriate reason for Shrek to love her, because her appearance changes while his love remains constant. Sousa begins searching for an overlying focal property, or a main reason for someone to love, and this is where we actually start getting somewhere. What if instead of Shrek loving Fiona for a list of reasons, he loved her for her autonomous rational will? That's just fancy philosopher speak for her whole self. This is a theory coined by David Vellman about love that implements the same lingo of the philosopher Kant, who argues that every person has a rational core self. Perhaps the reason Shrek loves Fiona is for that rational core self. But then the question is, what makes that core self special? What determines whose rational core self we love? You can't possibly love every single person you meet in the same romantic capacity. Plus, if the individual you love changes in their core self by learning some information or going on an epic introspective journey that teaches them to expand their thinking beyond what you, the lover, are familiar with, would you still love them? Well, what if instead of stressing the universality? Universality. What if instead of stressing the universality of each self needing a property, we looked at each self as if it was a unique property itself? Okay, by that logic, we've gotten as far as to say that Shrek loves Fiona because she is Fiona, an autonomous and unique individual soul. But why is Fiona's individual self any more lovable to Shrek than Snow White? Or why wasn't there some fight between Donkey and Shrek as potential suitors for the dragon? Come on, excellent subplot. So, using this base of individual souls being the focal property of love, Sousa proposes an amendment. And this, I claim, is the nexus of understanding love as a concept. What if rather than randomly selecting an identity to love, love is sprouted by joint history? This is the theory of historicity. It means that the bond of love isn't one person targeting the other's core self and choosing to love it. It is the intertwining of two unique core selves. The reason to love is the experiences, the history of ideas, the tribulations that were overcome, and the shared projects that exclude people like Snow White or Donkey or Dragon, therefore explaining why they are not the subject of Shrek's love. The reasons to love aren't properties at all, but an interactive process. In this way, perpetual change, like new adventures or the transformation of your crush from a human into an ogre, doesn't destroy love. Change actually preserves it. There are a few different directions that span off of this, and I gotta say, it's some real fun introspective philosophical theory. If love is built on the intertwining of two lives, think of the impact of societal norms, gender roles, and taboos that we don't even realize are entangled into our relationships just because they are a part of our shared experience of society. If anyone has experience with this phenomenon, it's Shrek. Thanks for listening.